Hello. Hi. Thank you for joining our weekly Fashion Bites chat. I'm Hillary, founder of the Fashion Bites platform. We're here to support and nurture creative entrepreneurs, filling in the gap between education and what happens in real life. This is our way to connect, collaborate, and share. Now, some of you that may know us from before this situation happened, we usually have educational panel discussion events focused on running your fashion business. We use industry expert. It could be from finance, marketing, PR. Let's see here. We have Catherine is coming on now. Yes, so it's quite important to understand how to run your business, the many hats you need to wear. Hello, hi.
Hello.
Oh, so good to see you. How are
You
you?
too. I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
Yeah, surviving like everyone's trying to. Oh my goodness. There is a technical situation. Let's get her back. Are you there? Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, it's like it was buffering and I couldn't figure it out. Thank you so much for joining us. Please introduce yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Catherine Erdly. I'm the founder of Future Retail Consulting and the Resilient Retail Club, which is my membership for creative product businesses. And I help businesses grow their sales, manage their stock, and build businesses that last. I have 20 years experience now in the retail industry. I spent 17 years in corporate retailers, and now I work exclusively with independent retailers and brands.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Right, so let's get to it. First question, has retail changed forever?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I think that what I would actually say is that what I'm seeing in terms of the way the retail industry has shifted during the coronavirus crisis is that we've really seen an acceleration of a lot of trends that had already started. So, for example, there's no secret about the fact that legacy retailers, if you like, so the bigger retailers, they've been really struggling for a long time. They've been battling a vast number of headwinds. So, for example, ever since the Brexit vote, the UK exchange rate has been hammering all of the businesses that have been ordering from the Far East because they all order in dollars. There has been the living wage increase, business rates increases, and just a general movement, I think, as well, of the away from this sort of mass market retail, which means that the model that a lot of these retailers have set up is just no longer as relevant to today's customers. So I think the retail industry is in a huge state of transformation, but I think that what the coronavirus has done is it's accelerated it. I don't think it's necessarily caused it to move to a different path. It's just kind of shot us forward several years faster than we would have got there otherwise.
Okay. Okay. Yes, yes. Now that we're open or the shops have reopened, what are you seeing, hearing from retailers?
Well, I think that overall footfall is down. There's no secret about that. The British Retail Consortium, who quite regularly talk about footfall, they've been saying that footfall's down considerably. I think what that's not showing, though, is a couple of things. First off, people are still interested in shopping with local and independent businesses. There've been a lot of surveys done during coronavirus. People are recognizing the fact that it was a lot of the time the smaller boutiques that really tried hard to stay connected to the local audiences. So they were talking to them on social media. They were doing all kinds of things like home delivery, or putting something by for somebody. They can just running it out to them on the street if they didn't want to come into the shop. And a lot of customers are still looking to support those independent businesses now that we've kind of reopened. The other thing that I don't think is being completely shown by these footfall figures is that the shopping intent is there. So even though we are, I think the last figures I saw, about 50% down on the typical footfall, what you're seeing is that the people who are out for a reason. They're here to shop. They're here to support people. They're here to buy the gifts for the people who they couldn't, they couldn't see during lockdown. They're here to refresh their wardrobes. So they are there and they're spending. So I've had people tell me that, they had a really quiet day in the shop and they were thinking, oh no, oh no, this is terrible. But actually at the end of the day, when they looked at it, they'd actually taken a decent amount of money because everyone who came in was buying, as opposed to normally you'd expect 30 to 50% of the people who come into a shop would be the people who purchase.
Yeah. Wow, that's really great. And it does, you've mentioned some, but it leads me into talking more about things that retailers are doing well right now to engage with their customers.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that can be done. I think the key thing here is the transparency. So a lot of retailers, the ones that are doing it well, they're being very, very open with their customers. They're talking a lot about, they're showing them cleaning, they're showing the ritual they're going through each time to cleanse products, they're showing them the sanitizer station. They're explaining to them, this is how it's going to work. When you arrive at the store, you're going to need to be wearing a mask. And if you don't have a mask, you can purchase one for £1 or however it works. But the ones that are doing it really well, they're making the customer feel comfortable, because as somebody said, it's like that feeling comfortable is going to be the new kind of determining factor for where people shop. Like, people are going to want to shop in the places where the distancing is marked out on the floor and there's a perspex screen and you're offered hand sanitizer and all of these things. I think that's going to really play a huge part in whether or not customers come to particular shops or not. Right.
No, that makes total sense, because you want to feel comfortable, don't you?
Yeah.
And safe.
Yeah.
Now, what would you advise, as you can imagine, especially in the fashion side of things, extra stock? How are people dealing with extra stock right now?
Yeah, this is a really interesting question, because obviously fashion is so seasonal and you don't normally get like a 3-month period where your normal selling patterns are disrupted. I think that I think that this year maybe I'd give different advice than I would normally give. Normally I say you clear as you go. If you've got a stock problem, you clear it through, you discount, you put it on sale if it's slow. In this situation, I think what you have to do is you have to look at things a little bit differently. I think you need to take your stock and you need to ask yourself, which of this can live forward? So which of this is going to be, a lot of clothing these days is trans-seasonal. So what could I, even if it's a layering piece, what could I put with something else put with a knit in the winter, even if I would have merchandised it with shorts in the summer? What pieces could live on as part of layering or part of that trans-seasonality? I think you also then have to split out the products that are not trans-seasonal, but you think you could sell next year. So maybe it is a piece that is a summer weight fabric that you really don't think is trans-seasonal, but you think it's maybe you could probably get away with it next year. And then you have to kind of look at what I like to call the brown bananas, like the products that are going to be super specific to a time period, super specific to a year, high fashion, really on a particular trend that you just don't think is going to be around next year. And those are the ones that I would say, right, okay, those have got to go. You've got to clear through those. You don't want to be pulling something out next year that's just going to be like, this is clearly like last year's. I mean, I think now the way that fashion industry is going, with more and more kind of crossovers and different types of trends emerging, I don't think it's maybe probably that's going to be a really small portion of your products, hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
So I would look at normally I would never say to somebody, pack your summer stock away and bring it out again next year. I would say, no, you need to clear it to get the cash flow. My concern is that there's just so much discounting right now. There are so many businesses trying to clear through stock that you could just end up finding that you're having to really slash your prices. And it's kind of, you have to look at it. Is it actually fine? The stock is really good. The stock is really decent. It will sell another year. Can you hang on to it?
Yeah. We need to buy well.
Yeah.
And a little less.
Yeah.
But with customer engagement, what are more things that people can do to stay connected and engaged with their customers? Because you do feel a little bit disconnected at the moment.
Yeah, I think the thing is that the customer, it's a weird, obviously this is a very weird situation, but I would say at the same time, we are all experiencing it at the same time. Sorry, I didn't mean to say same time twice, but and we're not all experiencing it in the same way. For sure, there are big differences in how people are experiencing lockdown and coming out of lockdown. But at the same time, there's going to be a lot of things in terms of your experience that will be the same as the customer's experience. So I think you can kind of start with that shared point, and I think often it's about a little bit of openness and honesty and just talking to your customer a little bit about, this is where we are as a business, this is the kind of behind the scenes stuff going on. How are you doing? Reaching out to the customer, asking, connecting with them, asking them questions, all of those things which can help you keep that connection. And one of the great quotes that I heard coming out of this whole situation was, it's no longer B2B or B2C, it's H2H, human to human. So I think a little bit of that humanity, it can go a really long way. And that goes whether or not your customer is the final purchaser or whether you're selling into other retailers. I think the more that we can kind of connect with people on that human to human level, I think that that's really important right now.
Yeah, building relationships, even if you
Yeah.
don't make the sale. And hopefully that will lead to selling more products
Yeah,
at some point.
definitely, because people buy from people, and
Right.
which is a cliche, but it's a cliche because it's true. So, connecting with your customer, just checking in with them, put up a poll on your Instagram, ask them, how's your day been? How's your week going? Are you surviving the summer holidays? Are you buying anything new for your wardrobe? Like, just kind of, we can talk to each other as one person to another.
Mm, very, very true. As a retailer, how do you make sure you're fit for the future?
Oh, that's a good one. I think it's got to be around, that's a really good question. I think it's got to be around digital. I mean, this has been going on for years. We've been talking about the growing importance of digital. But I think that what I have seen during lockdown is a lot of independent retailers who maybe aren't always considered the most forward in terms of their digital presence. They have made really big strides because they've seen the importance of making those connections with their customers. I think that that this is only going to help going forward. Prior to lockdown, the UK penetration, so the percentage of sales that were made online, was in the sort of low to mid 20s, so like 23 to 25%, depending on which report you.
Oh, we're doing a little bit of technical situation. She'll be back in just a minute, I think, hopefully. Yeah, I it's buffering for me, and I'm guessing it's doing the same for you then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, the joy of tech. So,
Yeah.
I yeah, so the percentage of sales that were happening online jumped all the way up to 33% during lockdown. And I think where you'd ask, has retail changed forever? I think that I think we'll see that number drop again. I don't think it's going to stay at 33%, but to a
Mhm.
certain extent, then that online selling is getting strong, is getting bigger and bigger, and that was happening anyway. So whether or not it
Mhm.
falls back to 25% or not, that's still a quarter of all sales happening online. And I think that it's not just about the digital presence, it's about connecting your online and your offline experiences, because we've learned so much more about that relationship between that kind of symbiotic relationship between online and offline selling. It's not an either or. It's allowing your
Mhm.
customer to go down a journey with you and to go from the store to the website, to the store as many times as they need. And those businesses that are actually doing that, who are crossing those channels, or the customers that are crossing those channels with you, they're better customers for your business in general. They're more loyal, they'll be purchasing more frequently, they'll have higher average purchase values, they will have higher customer lifetime value. So there's lots of reasons for you to encourage that behavior, to be encouraging people to be going from one to the other. And I think that's one of the key ways to get future fit, is to really, some of the digital brands that I work with, the digitally native, if you like, that I work with
Mhm.
over lockdown, have just had an incredible time, because people were shopping and they were shopping online and they wanted to support independence. So some of them have seen incredible sales. And I would say, so it's never going to not help to have that digital, that strength digital, but also then combine it with an offline as well. It's not just
Mhm.
just about online only, really.
Right, right. Now, some advice, please. Um, if if I was someone launching a new product now,
Mm.
are buyers buying? What would your advice be for a new product?
To buyers, when you say to the customer, like the final customer?
Or even shops. If I have a new
Shops.
product, I may want to go and see the buyer to get
Mm.
my product in a shop.
Yes, I say that people are buying. I'd say that because of the seasonality nature, in specific with fashion, that people may find themselves, when they do that exercise, like everyone's got to do that exercise, right, where they look at their stock and they go, what have I got that I can sell now? What will live on into autumn? What do I need in autumn? So the buying, the purchasing of the customer got disrupted, but also the purchasing in the bigger retailers got disrupted, with teams being furloughed, or with boutiques with them being shut and all the rest of it. So people have reopened, and they may have, generally speaking, a bit too much stock, but they're going to have pockets, they're going to have stock in the wrong place, they're going to be looking for something new. And I think that people always want to see what's new, especially in clothing. They always want to know what's new. So I would say, don't be afraid to put it out there. What I think you won't be seeing is these big volume orders. I don't think anybody's going to be going, do you know what? I'm feeling really bold. Let's just go for it. Let's just, purchase a whole load of stock. I think you're going to
Yeah.
see a lot of cautiousness. I think you're going to see a lot of people taking very measured risks, or
Mhm.
making small purchases so that they can look and learn and repeat things if it works. But I think in terms of actually getting your foot in the door, this is as good a time as any.
Oh wow, that's amazing. That's because I'd be even more cautious, wanting you have one time to make, an impression. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Well,
No, that's
no, I think that's true, but I think then, yes and no. I think, if you pitch and you don't hear anything, you can always pitch again when you have new products and new collections. I think
Mhm.
as well, if have speak their language, understand where they're coming from, talk to them about the fact, listen, I can do no minimum order quantities, I can do you a small delivery, I can let you trial this, you know, like you can meet them where they are, and yeah, and it's not a question it's not a question if you can't talk to them, you absolutely can. You have to be conscious of where they're probably at, though.
Right, right. Do your research.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah.
And speaking of research, um, about manufacturing,
Okay.
because the far away is hampered, let's say.
Yes.
And I think local should get a boost at the moment. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I know that Make It British, which is a really great organization run by Kate Hills, and normally a trade show as well, although obviously that didn't happen this year. She's seen a huge explosion in people's interest in made in the UK. In fact, ironically, the whole organization was set up after the SARS outbreak because their buying trip got cancelled, and she was like, oh, what would happen if we actually couldn't buy from the Far East? I think that things have started reopening. The supply chain seems to be running somewhat smoother than it was, not completely back to normal yet, but better. But I think absolutely a lot of people are putting two and two together and are saying, okay, yeah, British manufacturing is really important. It is a really viable option because you remove a lot of these concerns about people. I think people have suddenly kind of understood the fragility of these international supply chains that seemed like they were bulletproof. They've understood that actually this is really highly disruptable. Yeah, let's look closer to home.
Right, right. I mean, in the past, I would imagine that people looked far away or outside of Britain because of cost. And local is more expensive, I believe. Is that right? Or
Well, I mean, it used to be that China, for example, China manufacturing was so much cheaper than the UK. However, wages have risen in China, energy costs, transportation costs have risen, hugely. The cost of shipping, the shipping lines always control they have these very tight grip on their capacity, so they always want there to be less capacity than we really need. So even when you think, oh well, there must be loads of capacity now, there's no doubt they've been busy mothballing ships, so it still really controls that capacity and drives up the prices. So it's not to say that it's not still cheaper on occasion for certain products to manufacture abroad. But I think the differential is also really getting smaller. And the other thing you have to think about as well is that it's harder to find, it's not impossible, but it's harder to find small manufacturing, in the Far East, because they tend to want to have bigger quantities. So even if you're getting a better unit price, you may still be having to commit to too much stock, whereas there are more factories in the UK that would be prepared to do smaller runs. So again, it may be more per item, but you're having to invest less capital up front. So I think that the kind of the pendulum, the kind of the benefits of the sourcing strategy has really kind of shifted in terms of the Far East versus the UK. And I think the UK is actually a viable option.
Okay, great. I remember it was like a community type thing that happened, like Small Business Saturdays.
Yes.
Is that coming back? Do you know, now that we reopened, we need that local type vibe, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, the Small Biz Saturday is a campaign. They still go gangbusters. They've done a couple of lives of them on Facebook, and they do it every Saturday, every December, they have a Small Business Saturday, which is usually a week or so after Black Friday. So that's a really good kind of focal point. I think with the independent retail, I think what would be great to see would be more of the local kind of councils or business improvement districts thinking about that kind of placemaking, thinking about what they can do collaboratively to support their local businesses. I think that can be really powerful when it's done well. And I think that that government policy could be friendlier in some ways to small businesses. Obviously, a lot of them did get a grant, which was fantastic, but still, I think there's probably more that can be done. And I think the high street will change. I think that we can't fight that. More is happening online, but at the same time, I think that I've seen proposals where people are talking about, for example, putting more residential properties into high streets, so you're going to get that nice mix, and I think that could be a really powerful way to move forward, to have more people living in a center of a town, because then you're naturally getting that footfall to the businesses around it. It's like, we can't fight this, we can't turn back the clock and say that we have to have as many shops as we've got, but we can look at more innovative ways for us to use our town centres. And some of them may revitalise just by the fact that if people are being able to work at home more, again, if they live centrally, they'll visit their hometown more, maybe even more than they would normally go into the centre of London, for example. So I think there's lots of exciting things that could happen.
Okay, excellent. And finally, please tell us more about the Resilient Retail Club.
Oh, thank you. Yes, so the Resilient Retail Club is a membership group. It has three main components. It has courses, so there's a course portal that contains a variety of different courses on things like growing your sales, growing your profits, managing your stock. There's a Start Your Business one if you're first starting out. And it also has various other trainings about things like your pricing, your promotional strategy, anything to do with the real kind of nuts and bolts of making money, let's face it. And then we also have a community, a Facebook community, which is very lively and supportive. You can ask questions there. And then we do 3 live events a month as well. So we have a social event, we have a Ask Me Anything event. You can ask me anything you want about growing a creative product business, and also a workshop once a month as well. And it's
I think we're buffering again. 1 second.
Okay.
Here we go. Here we go. Oh, God. But you were saying towards the end you have 3
live events. Yeah.
Right.
So we do a workshop, we do a social event, and we do where we will have a chat, have our cameras on Zoom, and we have a chat. And then we also have an Ask Me Anything where people can basically ask me anything they like.
That's it. Yeah. All right. Oh, thank you so much with all the technical doodads. That was really brilliant. Thank you so much, Catherine, for spending time with us.
Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thanks. Thank you for tuning in. Join us again next week. Our guest will be Victoria Prue from Her Collective, the UK's first peer-to-peer wardrobe rental platform. Fantastic. Until then, bye-bye. Thank you. Thanks so much. Bye. Bye.